Hello, everybody. Hello, fellow slots enthusiasts. It's great to hang out with you for another Professor Slots podcast episode and live stream. If you've ever walked into a casino, looked around, and wondered what's going on, I can help. Master Casino Slots, win your way to success. This is my live stream Q&A session every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time here on Professor Slots' John Friedel YouTube channel. If you are here live, it's great to hang out with you guys and talk about slots. I'm seeing a lot of comments come through right now, but I'm hoping not to get distracted. Today, our topic expands on my slots-related videos or articles of the last week, as usual. And during my weekly Q&A session, I do make every attempt to answer your slots-related questions. Do try to stay on topic, and today's topic is coming up. But before we get to that, I want to go over and welcome everybody in the live stream, in the live chat, and I'll see who's here today. If you are able to sign into chat, make sure you say hello and let us know which state you play slots in. For those of you listening later, it would be great if you could comment in the comment section below, or if you're on the podcast, then send me an email at john@professorslots.com, where John is spelled Jon. So let's take a look and see who's live today. Oh my, bunch of comments. Excellent. Looks like I don't have a timestamp on the chat, and if you're interested in seeing the chat, you have to actually come to the live show, because I don't, to give people a little bit of freedom, I have removed that from the recording. But so Chip has mentioned to me, Chip Barron has, not his real name, has mentioned to me that he has another name and he's just going to use it. I don't know for how long. John's Jovial Jack Potter. JJJ. And saying hello to everybody. Also, Denise is here from Texas. She likes to play in Oklahoma. Yep, more comments. Let me see what I have here. Oops. Okay. Scott is here. Hello, Scott. Oh, it's cloudy day in southwest Missouri. In Ohio, I'm going to say it's pretty much the same thing. And Scott has said something about Oklahoma. We'll probably have questions about some of the rumors and situations. I'll save a little time in our session today to talk about that. Basically, I try to get comments from a lot of people, and just like when the casino closed, and we'll do that again when they open, and we're starting to hear rumblings. Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate that the audio is good. I've had times in the past where I went 5 minutes, and great. Lois and Dave are here and saying hello to me and everybody. Steve is also here as well. Excellent. I wanted to mention briefly that if you are international, and you're trying to watch this video later, not live, but later, you might have a little bit of difficulty. Larry, I think everybody who usually comes to the chat remembers Larry from Lois and Dave are telling us how sunny and 60 degrees where they are. Dean is here, great, too. But Larry from the UK wasn't able to watch the recording for 7-8 hours after the show was over. Normally, not to get technical at all, although you're all slots players, so we're going to get a little technical, I guess. The whole crisis situation means a lot more people are online. YouTube has not got a bandwidth problem, but some countries have a bit of a bandwidth problem. So to be nice, YouTube is trying to not use up all the bandwidth like during the day. So they try to do some things at night when so they don't really take away bandwidth from the UK or something, to use it up when it's most needed during work hours. So if you are international, I don't think there's a problem in the United States with this. If you're international, they have to process the video. There's a bunch of technical things they have to do with chop it up and share it with different servers so it's immediately accessible in your portion of the world. Yes, we are worldwide. You may not get access to this right away. Another reason to be here live, if you can, but some people, schedules change and whatnot. So just be aware that if you're looking for the recording of this later, and maybe I should put this note somewhere other than in the recording. I guess I'm just telling you what happened. It may not show up for like 8 to 10 hours. I think it was almost 12 hours last week. So I'll have to see what happens here. That processing usually only takes about an hour by YouTube. This last time it took 11, 12 hours. So 2 o'clock in the morning at my time. So just letting you know. Okay, so make sure I said hello to everybody. I think I did. And so today is, and anyway, thanks again for joining us today. Whether you are listening on the podcast, watching this video later, or here with us on the live stream, I'm glad you're all here. So our topic today is slots jargon. In the last week, I published another video. I had the article for a while for common slots. And some of these terms, most of these terms are in the book as well. Common slots, slot machine, casino gambling definitions. Some of them are pretty common. Bonus, like in bonus round, that's pretty common. But there are other terms that are a little less common, still in use. So in the chat, I placed a video link to a YouTube video that came out this last week. It's called Common Slot Machine Casino Gambling Definitions, and it's on my channel. You should be able to find it no problem. If you go to my channel at professorslots.com/live, that's a shortcut I made, or you could just try to go to my YouTube. There's places on my website, professorslots.com, where you can see a link on the sidebar of any article. So I just try to make it easy for everybody and just say professorslots.com/live. So this YouTube video includes 18 common slots terms like candle and bonus and roll up. But I also put in some obsolete terms because some of the common terms currently being used are quite possibly going to be obsolete at some point. And a lot of there's 8 obsolete terms that I put into the video towards the end, like hopper and weight count. These are most of the obsolete terms are, not all of them, but most have to do with coin operation. And I think you can imagine how difficult it would be to carry around tons of coins, or the casino to have tons of coins, and how you could, active slot machine, now might run out of paper out of its a voucher printer, but you can imagine it was a lot more often to run out of coins when you won a jackpot, particularly if you sit and play for a long time. So that was always inconvenient. Anyway, I don't mean to spoil your enjoyment of the video, but as I mentioned last week, there are some extended things that didn't get into the video, some next steps, some remnant topics, and I thought I would see what it's your guys' fault, the live stream. You've used some terms that are apparently more common in other states than the states I've gambled in. I haven't gambled in all 50, and it was interesting to see some of these additional terms. So I wanted to check in with you and talk about terms that are not in the video. Now, the way that I've set up my website and my YouTube channel, not everything I have that I want to make a video of has been put up. There's another 70 videos I need to make before I even get into new material. And one thing I've learned is sometimes, it takes more than a single term. People who are in the live chat, would you start coming up with terms I mean, I don't mean make them up. Let me know of terms that you used. You guys have done this before, where you've used terms that maybe are a little bit less common or more common in some states than others. What's a term that you would like to talk about? And I'll mention if it's in the video, because I have my list in front of me. But I'd be interested in knowing what terms you've heard that you use with slot machines, and we'll see if, how many might go in my next video with definitions. So there are several. I've already thought of several, and I'll get started with those. You may have heard them, and I can relate to what those mean. But sometimes it's simple enough, like on a candle, to explain what a candle is on a slot machine, and it doesn't need its own article. But if you have something like hand pay, then you look at that. If you look at that and you have sort of a question about, what do you mean? I can write a paragraph, but it's also more of a concept, and the concept needs, a couple thousand words to explain it, maybe thoroughly. So some of these definitions I mention, but some of them I've also made articles on. So we'll talk about some of the terms you want to share, and there's a couple I'll bring up where, is that just a paragraph, or is that something like a whole concept? And I've done both, so we'll see how that goes. Quickly, I'll also say, if you are watching the video later, please put the term into the chat or the comment section so that I can see which words you're interested in. We won't be able to talk about them live unless you put them into the live chat, but later on, please enter those, because those are helpful there as well. And while you're at it, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. And I did mention, if you're listening on the podcast, drop me an email at john@professorslots.com, where John is spelled Jon. Right, so let's see what jargon we have. I already have one from some time ago, but what else do we have in the live chat? Hello, Ray. Good to see you. Texan Jack Potter Slots. Yes, you were here last time. Hello. Kiosk. There's an excellent one. I should write these down. I will write these down so that I can remember. Yeah, kiosks have become very popular. For those of you who might be kiosks are a fascinating topic, and you don't have to be with a central server to have a kiosk. That's more of the Players Rewards Club. So one of the things kiosks, I just love that. Kiosks are something that the casinos put in place so that people wouldn't have to talk. I shouldn't say it that way. If you have a human in front of you, you can be persuasive. If you have a casino employee in front of you and you want something, you can try some things that just won't work with a machine. Also, usually with a human being servicing at the counter, you have a line. But you can put in many kiosks, many automated stations, and not an ATM machine, although there's sometimes a little collection of these things. And you go over to the kiosk machine, and one of the things you can do is check to see if you have a free dinner, or enter into a contest, or more than that. I don't know if you travel much. Some casinos have pretty fancy kiosks. Like, for instance, Harrah's, North Kansas City has a kiosk that you can have a floor map. You can enter what slot machine game you're interested in. You can enter what denomination you're interested in. You can enter, how many credits. It would take that and it would search the casino, and then it would show you a map of where you would find it. So that was pretty extraordinary. I haven't seen in my local casinos that intricate, but there's a whole bunch of reasons, mostly customer service, but also some other things that have to do with the casino not losing quite so much money for comps that perhaps weren't earned. And also, if you tell somebody no when they ask for something verbally, how can you make that person feel good? So when they are unsuccessful. So there's lots of reasons for kiosks. So kiosk is very prevalent right now. Yep. Retrigger. Sure. Thank you, Richard. Richard, you have the other one. The one I was thinking about before, which we'll talk about. Yeah, I think you're right. Retrigger is a little less common, but it is... Let's leave that out. It's a little less common, but the concept is, I think, kind of covered a little bit. We have taste and some other words that kind of get close to that. One thing we have to watch out for is like branded terms, right? If that's from somebody else's book and it's copyright infringement or something, I just want to make sure that I give credit and I don't know who authored that term. Anyway, yeah, retrigger. That has to do with several things that can happen with a slot machine. Like it could retrigger when you change slots players, or at least the player's card, or you empty the bankroll, or there's a question of what all these retriggers will do. I've actually heard from Eric Rosenthal, who you may know if you follow other podcasts. We had a breakfast one time with a bunch of podcasters at Foxwoods about 2 years ago. And wow, April 2 years ago. Just like the anniversary, 2-year anniversary. Anyway, I had breakfast with that group and sat next to Eric, and we had a nice chat about his insider information from some of the slots companies about whether removing a slot machine or removing all the cash or doing both would cause a retrigger. But one of the concepts that came into play that we talked about is there's a retrigger and then there's a retrigger. So there's different things, different levels of retriggering. Like, for instance, some casinos that I've been to have a winning slot strategy where if they're not played for an hour or 4 or 6, then it's much more of the retrigger means the first person to sit down is more likely to get a jackpot than if it had been 5 minutes. So the whole concept is a retrigger, but how much? How much of a winning strategy is that under what circumstances? So that's the basic idea behind retrigger. Chip says that a kiosk is often used when there is a group of similar slots in a circle. That's a carousel. My best understanding is that's a carousel. If they're all in a row, it's a bank. And I did put that into the video. Kiosk, I think there's like a circle of ATM machines, Players Club entry. What else? There's like voucher, cash exchanger, bill breaker, and that would be a collection of kiosks. Yeah. Okay. Dean says that there is a term, rapid fire, which is to when you make a bet and you can let the reels turn until they stop turning, or you can halt the play by hitting a button. So push the button to bet, the reels start spinning, hit the button immediately, they stop. There's no they put it in as enjoyment. How many people do that? How many people let the reels turn until they're done, or they do rapid fire where they stop it, bet, and then press it again to stop, and then just bet instead of bet, wait. How many people do this rapid fire? All right. I'll see if anybody comments on that. I myself do that. I don't. It's very rare. I don't. Yeah. Okay. So there's rapid fire of the main reels, but there's also a bonus round. And one of the things I'm sentimental about Wheel of Fortune, in part because I found winning machines that happened to be Wheel of Fortune. I had a conversation with Jan, right, about having how Wheel of Fortune is. I say it's my favorite, but please understand that's a personal, sort of a sentimental feeling. I like them because I won so much on them. I also kind of grew up in front of the TV show a little bit. So it's sentimental, and I don't mean to advocate that Wheel of Fortune is always going to be winner. It was at my casino, and I made the most I possibly could of that. Okay. Richard says, species, similar slots controlled with its own network server. Are we talking about progressive? Similar slots controlled. You might be talking about progressive, but you might not. A network, usually a casino only has one network for non-progressive machines, but then they would have many networks of different sizes for similar themes, and we typically call those the progressive machines. That one network PC includes extra tracking within that one species, money, payouts, comps, losses, profits. Well, if I take a step back from that, what do we know? We know, without going into a casino and finding out what they do, that slot machine manufacturers usually lease, particularly if they're at all new, lease their slot machines to the casino. And part of that lease includes getting some of the income from those. So in order to be able to fulfill that contract, you would need to know how much was bet and how much was returned. But that's not too hard to count. When Richard says comps, losses, profits, I don't believe so. The comps, you don't get comps at slot machines. You go over to the kiosk. So it's not really slot machine specific. Losses and profits, yes, sort of, but it's not by individual. It's by slot machine. And there's some concepts in there that I'm trying to separate and be clear about. Something along those lines is there's statistics, at least to the casino, because they have contracts that they have committed to. Let me make sure my stream health is good. Yeah, good. So we can get into that, but I want to kind of answer everybody's questions. So one of the concepts that you've brought to mind, Richard, is that a casino has a payout return, the ones that report, and we know what the payout return is. They have a payout return, but many states will give payout statistics, not by slot machine denomination, sometimes by month, sometimes by year, only by casino. And that's the payout return of that casino. The casino knows more, but the state might only require that much, if that. And one of the things a concept I've been thinking about is, a slot machine has a payout, individual payout by wager, and some states say there's a maximum limit, and some states say there's not a maximum limit, and there's some things going on there that might turn into a winning strategy if I can capture it properly. And one of the things, something I'm working on the side, or another article eventually. And one of the things I've come to realize is, you, as someone who plays a bunch of slot machines, have a payout return like an individual slot machine does. with a bunch of different people playing it, you would be an individual person playing a bunch of slot machines. So what I'm trying to do with Professor Slots is to help you have a better payout return. Now, one thing I recognize is that if you win money, you might just have more money to spend, and it still ends up being a great night because your $200 became $400, and then you spent the $400 and you still went home with zero, as usual. But you had a lot more fun. So, the people who have an entertainment goal can do that. So, I see more here. Ray lets it turn and stop. You can. That's great. Certainly, some of the video ones, you don't know what's going to happen. It has a bunch of sort of like stops goes before it gets to the end, and that can be very entertaining. Yeah. Let's see, a caravan. So when you say caravan carousel, you're Richard, you're thinking caravan. I mean, I think in terms of like a row. So you're thinking like a bank of machines. I've heard it called bank of machines, like bank of a river. But carousel is interesting. A caravan and carousel, interesting. I hadn't really focused on that one too much. Right. So Ray asked the question about retrigger. Yes, when I was talking to Eric Rosenthal, who has a personal friend in one of the slot machine manufacturers, he did talk about how it has to disrupt the random number generator. That's really all that can happen. And if you're wondering what the concept would be, it's basically using, there's sometimes it takes me a while to make it non-technical. There's something called a frequency distribution, and there's actually a bunch of different kinds. In fact, there's ones that are like standard distributions. Look in any statistics book. And then once you get into the math, there's actually an infinite number, because you can have a bell-shaped curve, right? But you can squeeze it in so it's kind of like this, or you can squeeze, change it so it's like that. So even though it's the same frequency distribution type, you can have a bunch of different parameters to make it narrow or thin or high, and so that is how they control the odds of winning with an RNG. Its distribution over time. So I can understand how not being sure of the answer, because that sort of thing is something of a physicist, sort of computer engineer, sort of statistician sort of topic. And believe me, when I've taken so many statistics courses, the first couple of years was just like, what are you talking about? But after that, you sort of like get tuned. Talk about jargon you don't see anywhere else. Statistics is one of those. Hello, Joe. Welcome from Massachusetts. Let's see, Richard. I peeked over the top of a bank of slot machines, same species, and seen all 6 network wires, from each of them 5 CAT wires, and what the text said was the server for that bank. Sure. We don't need to wire how things are wired up. I've talked before about having to put wires in from each slot machine to the central server. There's not 300 entry points into the central server. You have a nexus, put it on a network, and you collect them. A great explanation for this is Wreck-It Ralph 2. Ralph breaks the internet. Anyway. Yes, Chip said he's had some luck stopping it. Hit a good win stopping it myself, but not often. And Dave Dave or Lois said they don't have much luck to force stopping machines. It shouldn't matter. It can't matter. It can't matter on Class 3 machines. Class 2, if the skill involved playing a Class 2 machine, again, two terms that I talk about a lot. Class 2 is competition style, often a game of bingo. If you get flexible about your thinking, you might also say it's video poker, right? You have a choice at one point, which is skill. It's not a choice of do I or do I not push the bet button, but rather a choice of which cards to keep. And so it's a skill-based game, and some people call that a Class 2 machine. Indiana's gone a long way with getting that through the state legislature. In any case, mostly it's bingo, and there's pickle cards, pickle games, some other stuff that's a little more common some places than others. But on a Class 3 game of chance, there is no skill after you sit down on a machine at a particular time and put your money in and you press the button. When you press the button to start the whole thing, everything is figured out right to the end of that bet. At the moment of the bet, everything is figured out in microseconds, including 200 bonus rounds. It's all calculated right there at the beginning. You push the button, and that's when it's done. If you force stop it, it doesn't matter. It ends where it was planned when you made the bet. Now, we can have a bit of a philosophical discussion about, well, how fun is that? It's fun if you don't know what it shows. You have to wait for the reels to stop spinning, whether you cause them to stop or you just wait for them to stop. Just because the decision was made early, nobody told you. So it's an interesting, they love to have you have, I know it takes away from things to understand that when it slows down, the reels slow down, and it's like going to be a 777, and the last one just sort of slowly moves over to not a 7. That's fun. I'm sorry to say it was all determined back at the beginning when you made the bet. Let's see. Hey, David. Oklahoma is more likely to hit with more people playing or less people playing. Right, so it's not quite 50-50 on the Class 2 and the Class 3 games in Oklahoma. Every couple of years they come out with a report of how many they have of each, and this all matters as far as renewing compacts and arguments with the governor and all that. It's all part of the thinking. Oklahoma has about 45% Class 2 machines and 55% Class 3 machines when they last reported on this about 2 years ago. So, hey, Gary, good to see you. And so on a Class 2 machine, if it's not video poker, but rather bingo, and that's pretty common at tribal casinos, Class 2 games don't need a state compact. You just need to be federally recognized. And federal law protects that. So Alaska, anything, any of these Class 2 games at tribal casinos are permitted unless they're sort of you have to be federally recognized, which is a huge burden. So to accomplish, it takes years, decades sometimes, and it's not fair. It's not a fair process. It's just look it up. It's politics. Right. So if it's a Class 2 game, maybe based on the game of bingo, then the more people playing might actually lower the odds. But the question is, how you have a bingo game, you might have a 8,000 seat auditorium where they're playing bingo. Foxwoods had something huge like that. It was there when I was there 2 years ago, but I think I've heard that it's closed. And some of these are high stakes. And that's not what's happening with slot machines. Slot machines are usually many small games. So if you had 10 people in a game, one of them is going to win. If you have 200 people in a game online electronically, I mean, these other people are in a network in that same casino, then one person's going to win. But with so many fast bettings, it goes far faster than a bingo game. So if you get fewer people than the one game typically has, there's a maximum number of people that would be in a bingo game on these machines. If the number of the people in the casino drops to half of that number, then we're talking about you having a 50% better chance of winning. So a lot of information I don't know, like how many people are in a game, how many games are being played at once with a casino like WinStar. You have to find a time when few people are playing, but if they only need 20 people, then you won't see a change in odds. Hope that helps. I need to write an article on it to sort of go point by point through that. Right, I knew this was going to happen. People were wondering about casino openings. Yes. So Carrie asks, and she's from Wichita, KS Star, Kansas Star, and from Wichita, not to be confused with Kansas City. What's going to happen? She asks, what's going to happen when the casinos open? Is it going to be win-win or lose-lose starting up? I have my own opinion on that, and it may be that when casinos start opening up that I will be right, but I think the best thing we can do is the casino that you go to, Carrie, or David, or Lois and Dave, or Richard, odds are it's not going to be the first one to open up. So let's keep in touch weekly. Send me emails or comment more often if your casino opens. And then you'll be our guinea pig, and we'll see what happens at your casino, and then we'll know better at other casinos. Just hope it's somebody else. Somebody else's casino opens up. Unless you really, really, really want to go to a casino, and then you can be the guinea pig for us. That will work. We did that when the casinos closed. Hey, there's only a few more open. Maybe I should go the night before. Is it busy or whatnot? And we learned several things. Like they said it'd be open till midnight. In some of the Florida casinos, they'd be open to midnight, and they closed it all down at 10 o'clock. We just knew, we know that happened, and we think about what that means. So when the first casino opens, let's stay on top of that, and we'll share amongst ourselves, and then we'll see what happens. Okay, that's factual. That is a plan. Let's do that. Don't have an answer for you now. Then there's my opinion. Which is, seems pretty clear based on other things like casino business practices, compacts, state regulations, that if it's at the beginning of the month, it's to meet their requirements, either by their business, by their state, by their compacts. If it's in the beginning of the month, they're likely to have take your money. But at the end of the month, which is usually the division between meeting the monthly requirements, in Nevada it's weekly, but in most other states it's per week, per month. And so they need to meet that requirement for the month. So I would bet that at the end of the month, whether they open at the beginning of the month or middle of the month or the end of the month, at the end of the month, it'll be paying out. Yeah, that's my thought on that. Joe says, has anybody seen red screens outside of Oklahoma? I don't know what that is. You got to know from me, Joe. Max, sunny Southern California. Be careful there, Max. We have a heated conversation going on here about how cloudy it is in Missouri, Southwest Missouri, and Ohio, and here you jump in with a southern. No, that's all right. I'm kidding. We need somebody to come up with a snow. Max has put in a couple of hashtags, which I find interesting. All right, Max is kind of going off the rails. Okay, be careful, Max. Steve, I got a reopening survey from your local casino. Interesting. On what you like to see happening before opening back up. Okay, wonderful. So, anybody else? So the casino is, it says on, Steve says that he got a survey from his local casino on what he likes to see happen before opening back up. Interesting. Engage a little bit of interest. No problem, Max. Like employees wearing masks, gloves, also customers required to wear masks while in the casino. So they had like different options for you to choose. It wasn't like a just write it in, but choose something. That's interesting. And employees wearing masks, gloves, also customers required to wear masks while in the casino. Okay. The one thing I wonder about is social distancing. If social distancing. If you every other chair removed, tilted up, slot machine off, only half the slot machines on, or maybe even like two in between. What's 6 feet? Somebody sitting behind you, is that 6 feet away? We're touching slot machines, a bunch of germs there. Yeah, we all are, Max. Max says he's going stir crazy. We all are. Joe also says, for instance, money bags, screens turn red, then you... Nope, that sounds like a specific... sounds like a specific item on a theme, not... so apparently Moneybags is a game. The screen turns red, and then usually a jackpot. Can you use that? I mean, when I think about that sort of thing, I wonder if you can take advantage of that somehow. You need to confirm all that, but that's possible with a skill-based game, but I just don't see how that would, you still have to bet, then you might see a red screen, and then you might win something, but was there a second bet involved? I don't have enough information. Chat with me later if you really want to get into it, and maybe send me a couple of pictures, and we can kind of go over that if it's quick. Otherwise, we can do a consult and talk about it for an hour. So Max, be aware that YouTube chat rules on a live stream give you a certain number of comments that you can make within a certain time period. So if you suddenly find that you can't make comments, you might hit your limit. It's a YouTube thing. There's nothing I can do about that. So Chip says, I feel encouraged using your slots method in controlling my losses and getting more wins when casinos open. But on the other hand, thank you, Chip. That has been the plan all along. One of the things I recognize is how's our self-control with not having gone to a casino for a month or two, by the time we open back up. What's that going to be like? I felt like I was practiced at sort of like thinking about what I was doing, but I'm just probably going to walk in and sort of stand there for an hour, maybe sit down someplace going, oh, I miss this place. All the sounds and the sights. And if I actually played, I don't think we'll lose our skill. I think we might be a little more aware of things before we might have been a little bit not noticing some stuff. I think with all our conversations here that we're likely to notice things that we didn't notice before because of the break. So, I'm glad that you feel like you have the my slots methods are helping you, and that we'll see. I worry about people kind of like having saved up a lot of money and then just splurging it without, you know, with the rush of getting back into a casino. Sounds like it's a very popular thing for the game of money bags, the red screen. It is not something that I've seen here. I will watch for that in the future. Would you happen to know if it was a Class 2 game or a Class 3 game? Do you know if it was a bingo game or, you know, a game of chance where the screen turns red? Because I'm not going to see it at my local casinos. I have to drive 300 miles or so to find a tribal casino and see if they have a money bags. So yeah, I'll watch for that. Yeah, there's some very state specific, like I think it's Oregon, that you can get into the menus on a slot machine and you can find out what its payout return is. They document it, put it right there, you know, and it's pretty sophisticated. You know, they're the one. Is it Oregon? I think it might be Oregon. They're connected to they have 2 lottery systems in the state, and one of them is a tribal lottery system, and that's the one the video slot machines at tribal casinos are connected to, and that's what I was talking about. Every one of those, every casino is tribal, has this menu option where you can read it. In fact, they have it online at that tribal lottery system, and so you can actually go to, you know, online and check, but you know, you have to connect the dots and find that slot machine in the casino. So one more state of the 50 states. How many have I played slots in? 12, something like that. The ones around me and places where I've lived and visited. David says, I just hope everybody don't have the virus when they leave the casino. I agree, David. That would be, it's not the worst thing. The thing because the people that go to, we can talk about these things. The worst thing would be to, if you don't care to risk yourself, you risk somebody else. But Ray says, I thought red screen was on bingo machines and part of the bonus process. Ray says, I don't know. I kind of suspect there's a 45 to 55% chance that it's a Class 2 bingo machine, because I believe the people who were talking about it were in Oklahoma. So I put the stuff together. It's what I do. And so yeah, so if that's the case, then a red screen during the bonus makes a lot more sense, because then you win. It's not like another bet. You're still in the same bet. And that makes a lot of sense, Ray. And then they're not giving anything away by having the red screen. They're just building anticipation, which is all perfectly what they strive to do, player appeal. Okay, so let me check to see my notes if you've not got other terms besides kiosk, retrigger, rapid fire, caravan, which I wrote down. There was one that Richard had mentioned, sweepstakes games. Anybody remember that from 3 months ago? He used the term sweepstakes games, and I was like, the what? And I realized, I looked it up afterwards and had a chat with Richard about it, and so I don't want to say anything offensive, but they're basically not slot machines. They're usually illegal machines, but the reason why it's sort of chancy for me to say that is it's in the gray area. If you are in Utah, where they have, gambling, all gambling is strictly prohibited. They don't have a state gaming commission, nor do they have an enforcement division to the state gaming commission, because the state gaming commission doesn't exist. So how do they enforce not having illegal gambling machines at convenience stores, gas stations? People have sent me pictures. They're right there, 2 or 3 of them. And this is the type of machine that kind of fits into the gray area. Not a casino being opened, but a couple of machines in the corner of a American Legion post, like in Kansas. Although I think they got rid of the one that wasn't Kansas. It was it Montana? No, the next one. I think it was Nebraska. Yeah, Nebraska, Scotts Bluff, and other places. They had an American Legion post that had skill-based slots and Class 2 machines, bingo machines, and so you can have some places where they're not Class 3 slot machines, which are prohibited, but these other games that aren't regulated, I'll call it not regulated, not necessarily illegal, because it's kind of a gray area where nobody has specifically said it's wrong, yet on the other hand, it's not approved, so we'll call it unregulated. A lot like having a bookie, in a state that doesn't have sports betting. All states have sports betting. A few have legal sports betting. And so if you do a March Madness, I'm not really into sports, the branchings, brackets, that's in states that don't have sports betting, that's totally illegal. Because I was looking some of this stuff up and doing some research, and I was like, where is $3 billion of lost revenue, state taxes on gaming revenue being lost in the country? $3 billion? I mean, who's doing the illegal gambling? And I realized at the time that my coworkers, would have a pool. They would bet on sports, with their brackets in March, and everybody does that. And I was like, oh, you mean that? So these sweepstakes machines can be even like arcade games where you might win money, slot machines, arcade games where you might win something, where you have a prize. Instead of just spending money, you also get something. And that's the sort of thing that a sweepstakes game is, but it's very state by state. Some states are cracking down on it. Some states, not so much. I guess 7 years ago, it was kind of like trying to become something in Ohio, and then the enforcement sort of noticed and cracked down and figured out ways to, like, is it Louisiana? They have, if you have these games, you can have up to 5, and they'll simply be confiscated. But if you have 6, then the owner of the bar, it's felony. So it's called, what is that? These legal terms, my goodness. Civil forfeiture. Talk about slots terms that we all need to know. Civil forfeiture. They take it, no penalty. If it's only a few, and maybe they made enough money on it to afford having more, and so it goes. But if you go over a certain amount, then a certain number of them, then it becomes a felony, and now because the business might close because the owner's in jail. Yeah. So I think I got as far as Carrie. Oh, yes. One of the things I've been, taking, Carrie says, if you ever visit the Kansas Star in Wichita, Kansas, let us know and we can meet you. That's something I'm considering how much I'm going to do of that. I need to go to casinos, but I also don't want to travel on a weekend and miss the show. Or do I do this remotely? As long as I have good Wi-Fi, I guess I could do it in a hotel room or a park bench or something. So there's a question of, keeping things going here where I could potentially reach hundreds of people, eventually thousands of people, where if I come to visit Kansas Star in Wichita, I might not see you. Hello. So I have to sort of plan for the future. Also, it's hard for me to evaluate a casino if I'm also talking to fans, talking to my audience, because I sort of have to walk around and think and you know, it's kind of a solitary thing. So I have to thank you for all the invitations, Indiana, Michigan, as Dave and Lois know, um, and other places. We'll see how much I can do that. There's only 52 weekends in a year, and the further away I go, yeah, have to work something out. See, when I'm small, I can do that. When I'm large, I can do that. In between, I have a hard time. When I'm large, why don't we just reserve the ballroom at your casino, and we can have a couple hundred people show up. Have the casino pay me to do it, even, or I'll just do it for free. And they can promote it on the billboards on the side of the road. So they're sort of like now, and they're sort of like later, and then in between, that's where we are right now. And it's like, there is Dave and Lois are suggesting that I do a live stream from Mount Pleasant, Michigan, which is where Soaring Eagle is, the second largest casino in Michigan. And there's all kinds of issues with that, Dave and Lois, including having a contract with the casino where I would, pay them for that, or, promote them on the show and have some sort of contract. And I've talked about in the past, and that's just the sort of thing where, I'm not going that direction. Plenty of other people are. And Soaring Eagle is a tribal casino, and I haven't seen these contracts with tribal casinos. I've only seen, no, that's not true. Brian Christopher does California slots, California casinos, and they're all tribal. So you have to have an agreement with the casino, and that sounds like it's, if I lived next to it and did every week or something like that, then I might go through the hassle of getting all that and paying for it, but one off. So anyway, to answer that question of how might I see you guys, the live Q&A is mostly it. And visiting people, might wait until I'm a little larger so I can have a crowd. But individual visits, hey, if I could, I would just, come right through the camera and be right there, and, when there isn't a pandemic, and we can talk about stuff, on site. Go to your casino, walk around with you, but it's not something that quite works. Yeah. NG Slots does California slots. Yeah, there's. I was thinking they don't do tribal casinos because the tribal casinos won't do it, but a lot of them are. Several of these are based in California, so I turned out not to be the case. So Steve says some slot machines now have buy a bonus, no waiting for the bonus. Wow. See, this is exactly why I'll always be going to casinos. Steve was saying that you can now pay extra to actually get a bonus round. Pay an extra $10, $20, $50, so you don't have to wait and keep betting to get the bonus. You make the bet, get the bonus, but you paid extra for it. So the question is, how much did you pay and how much did you win? And, if you spent $10 to get a bonus and you got $8 on the bonus, everything works out fine for the casino. That's their 80% right there. Boom. So this is fascinating to see some of where the technology is going. They're able to process things faster, connect on a network better, have central servers, so make adjustments daily, several times a day, and all that kind of opened up this possibility of features that have player appeal on slot machines, like buying a bonus. Wow. I have a feeling that would be very popular to start, but I don't know how long it's going to last. These companies are trying a lot of new things, and sometimes they're a hit, and sometimes they're not a hit. I wonder how that one's going to go, because if you win $8 and when you spend your $10, then what the heck, man? And also, bonuses are special because it is a bonus. But if you have a bonus every time, is it still a bonus? It's how you play the game, right? So, I'm quibbling here. So Ray said he's seen those machines as well. Yeah, I'll watch out for that. Thank you for informing me of the possibility. So what else do we have? I want to check my notes. So one thing I didn't talk about, which is a bit of a complicated conversation, is average daily theoretical. I've got that on my list of things to talk about. It has to do with your royalty program and kind of ways to manage your visits to casinos to get the best comps in the future, right? You go to a casino, you spend $1,000, you wait 6 months, you spend $1,000, or you go every week and you spend $100. Which one will get you more comps? The first one. Now, this is relevant. I wanted to bring this up because we haven't been to casinos, and maybe we've been saving our money. So, sorry. So when you do that, you might find that your comps go up. And that's a whole other discussion about what we're going to do with, you need so many points per year to maintain a certain status. And if you're actually closed for a month or two, what does that mean as far as making diamond status and Caesar's rewards? Okay, so I want to wish everybody, please stay safe and have fun. Be safe, as always, during this pandemic, and make good choices. I'll talk to you later next week.